Hey, my name is Cassie and welcome to my little corner of the internet. This is going to be a craft and chat where we hang out for a little while. I work on my craft, you can work on whatever you want to, and we can just have a nice little chill conversation where I talk to you about things that have been going on in my life, a little bit behind the scenes, or if you have a topic that you want me to cover next week, then you can put it down in the comments and I will make a poll and put my favorite ones into a poll on my community tab and you guys can pick the topic for next week. Honestly, I've been really looking forward to having this, and I used to do these a little bit more frequently where I called them knitting chats, but I wanted to open it up to being a craft and chat because I thought, you know what? I like to do a whole bunch of things. I know you guys like to do a whole bunch of crafty things too. And so why not open it up for a little bit of diversity where I'll work on different crafts, different weeks. Sometimes it'll be the same thing. It'll often be knitting, but open it up to different crafts, and that way we can have different conversations as well, sometimes about whatever I'm learning or working on. Whatever we do end up talking about, this is meant to be a safe place for you to just hang out and chill, nice cozy crafting corner, and we're gonna get into it. I've got my knitting and I'll show you what I'm working on. So this is the yarn that I'm working with, and it's this really lovely pastel yarn. It's a sock weight yarn, fingering weight, super wash, because I'm making this for a baby, and this is what I have so far. So not a lot, and I've got to get going on it, which made me realize this is the perfect thing to do for today. It's a nice and rainy day in Montreal, and that kind of means I can just catch up on things and do these sorts of videos, and it always feels really nice and cozy to do them when the weather is a bit gloomy outside. The baby sweater that I'm working on is the flax sweater from Tin Can Knits, and it is a free pattern, which we always love, and it comes in every single size from newborn to adult. And I just love that. I think that's really cool, and I've never knit a baby sweater before, but I love how tiny they are, and I think I'll get this done in no time, and then I can send it off to my lovely friend who is expecting. They're in Seattle, so I definitely have to get with it because the baby is due in August, but this is just a little tiny guy. It's gonna fly by, I already know that. So while we're here, I had a few things that I wanted to talk about, and one of the main ones was kind of a little bit of a catch up because I haven't done this sort of sit down in a while, and I've really been meaning to. So just for a little bit of background, if you're new here, I live in Montreal. My name is Cassie. I live with my partner and our cat Layla. I almost called her my daughter. I live with my partner and our cat Layla. So we moved into a new home in April, and I'm really loving it here. It just is so nice to make a space our own and be able to do whatever we want with it, and we really have been enjoying it. Montreal is a really beautiful city, but especially beautiful in the summer. And if you didn't know already, I moved here from Toronto. So we're initially from Toronto, but we've been in Montreal for about a year and a half. And we just really love this city. We love the vibrancy of it. I really love how creative it is. I've never in my life had so many crafty friends, and I love all my friends everywhere, but in Montreal I have met so many people who knit and sew and are living and working artists, and I just think that it's so cool to have a city that really responds to the arts and supports the arts and also is livable enough that people can be artists in the city full time. And something about Montreal that has been so nice for me is that I've found it really easy to make friends here. I think that maybe it's just like the life stage that I'm at, but I really wanted to meet people here who had the same interests as me, and so far I have. I've met a ton of people who knit and sew and are really crafty, and I feel like very lucky to have this little group of friends and still have my friends at home. And it's just been a very fulfilling year and a half of being here, and the summer especially has just been nice so far. It's been hot, it's been maybe a little bit gloomy, pretty rainy and rainstormy, but that's good because we've also had a lot of wildfires, so it's nice to know that the ground and everything is nice and damp, and we're hopefully not at risk of having those wildfires again, at least not anytime soon. A few other things other than moving is that I'm still working for a sewing pattern company in Montreal. I really am enjoying that as well. That's a big part of where I've met a lot of friends, a lot of people who are into the same things, of course, as me. And it's really refreshing to be in a creative environment, even if every day isn't, that creative adventure. Being creative isn't something that you necessarily get to practice every day, even in a creative job. But I really enjoy being in a space where we're making things, where we're coming up with ideas. I really like the ideas that my team has. And it's just really cool to be a part of something like it. And I feel very fortunate to have my job and be working in sewing when, honestly, 3 years ago, I didn't even know what I was going to be doing with my life, and I certainly didn't really think that sewing would be a part of my job, and I didn't think that I would be doing YouTube, and everything just really changed quite quickly and in a way that I really never expected. And so when people ask me like if I like to sew or how I feel about it or whatever it ends up being, it's always a conversation because it's quite niche. I always just say that learning how to sew changed my life. It really did. It put me on a path that I wasn't expecting, and it changed everything. It changed the trajectory of my life from where it was going, and I am very grateful that it did. And the reason why I give this sort of background and have this sort of reflection on everything as well is because I have been really contemplating what I want to do with this space, what I want to do with my social media. I've been posting about it in the community tab on YouTube as well as on my Instagram and TikTok. And I've just been thinking a lot about how I want to show up here. And, I get a few comments every time I post about, asking what you guys would like to see or whatever. I get quite a few people saying, just post what you want to post. Creators always do better work when they're posting things that they want to, and the rest will come organically. And I just wanted to say that I really do agree that we should be posting content that we want to make. But I will also say that I never post content that I don't want to make. I always am posting stuff that I want to make. But the reason why I ask for opinions and feedback is because I could go on with so many ideas, but I'd love to hone in on the ideas and hone in on the things that you guys like, that you're interested in, because it is, a two-way relationship. I'm making content for me because I enjoy it, but I am also making content for people to watch. And if people aren't going to watch it, then to be honest, it's not really worth my time. I'm here to connect, and I'm here to share, and that is the whole point of this. So if you did give me some feedback in my recent posts, I really do appreciate it, because it is hard to work full-time and navigate the online world and navigate what you want to do with it, because YouTube is a little side hustle, but it still is a place that brings me an income. And so I do treat it like a job. I treat it like a part-time job. And I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I want that to show. I want to be listening when you guys offer feedback, and I want to show up authentically in a way that's true to me and is still valuable for the people who are watching me. So all that to say, thank you for being here as I sort of navigate a little bit of a funny time on YouTube for me. And I navigate what I want this space to be like going forward. And that's why I wanted to make this little knit and chat, this little craft and chat, because I really do love doing so many different things. I love crafting. I am a huge crafter in my heart. I always want to try new things. I thought that it would be a really fun way to be able to explore that creativity in a way that didn't take my content so off track, but also, helped me satisfy that little bit of differentiality that I wanted. I was looking for something to kind of spice it up a bit, and having something that's a reoccurring series that I can lean back on, but spice it up by bringing in new things, trying out new crafts, exploring different mediums. That to me sounds super fun, and I really like the idea of being able to share that with you guys. And so on that note, if there is any sort of craft that you are interested in doing with me next time, let me know. If I have it, I will do it with you. Otherwise, if there is a topic that you want me to cover, please let me know. I'm really open. It could be about recent events. It could be about Barbie movie. It could be about books or whatever. It could be about absolutely anything. I'm really open to different conversation topics, and because this is going to be reoccurring, as I mentioned, we've got a lot of time to cover a lot of different things. And so where is my content going to be going? Like I said, I'm going to try to keep these pretty consistent. I really like chatting with the camera. It's a nice little comfy space for me, as I mentioned, and I hope that it becomes a comfy, cozy space for you too. But I also really like the idea of, having this as my go-to and then also being able to deliver on content that is a bit more ambitious, that follows my longer term projects. And I think that little sweet spot is going to be what does it for me. And I am really looking forward to that. So we'll keep doing these little craft and chats. I'm hoping they are every week, but maybe they'll be interspersed with some other stuff. I think, like I said, it's going to be a bit of a trial and error for a little while because I am playing it out. I am seeing where things go, and I'm just kind of enjoying the whole process. But yeah, I think, going forward, I don't know what a schedule will look like, but I do want to try to be consistent again on YouTube, and I think creating this format of video is something that is easy for me to be consistent with, and it's also something that I like doing, and I really like that it gives me some dedicated time to just chill and also to get out some thoughts that I have and to knit or craft or whatever it ends up being. And I've found myself looking at different crafty things that I could get into or try, and that always feels really fun too. So I've got a lot of ideas brewing for the channel, and I also am looking forward to some other long form content that explores, longer term projects as well, like bigger projects, or even just follows a bit more of a narrative. That a lot of you had said that you wanted to see more process videos, and I love doing those, but of course they take a bit more time. So being able to take the time with those videos and get some really solid good stuff out, and also be putting out this kind of stuff that feels really natural and good for me. And so I'm really feeling like this is a good decision. I can be a little bit indecisive or a little bit fickle at times, but I've been trying to find a method that works for me, and I think that this is kind of the right place. So we will see how it all turns out, but I am feeling good about that trajectory. I really like how this yarn is knitting up. It's just adorable. This just screams like little baby to me. Kind of want to make a sweater for it for myself, but anyways. It feels nice to be knitting again. I haven't knit in a little while, ever since I finished a sweater that I had been working pretty aggressively on because it was a test knit. I've kind of stepped away from knitting. I just don't love knitting summer clothes. I really don't. So I think what I'll probably end up doing after I finish this sweater is to work on something that is maybe more fall appropriate. Work on a cardigan so that'll be ready for the fall. That kind of feels like a good place to start. But yeah, I'm happy to have picked up this project because it was something I really wanted to get out before the baby is born, and I've been procrastinating on it. There's a few other life things that I wanted to get into. I'm running a half marathon in September. I just booked it. I don't know what I was thinking. Actually, no, I do know exactly what I was thinking. I've been saying I've wanted to run a half marathon for a long time, but about 10 years ago, I injured myself really badly from running, and I've been really scared to go back to it. And every time I try, I end up just kind of chickening out. I'll run for maybe a few weeks. I hate it because running is hard when you first start. Of course it is. But I chickened out every single time. I would feel pain and I would get nervous that I was going to get injured again. But this time I have stuck it out, and I think a lot of it was in my head. I think a lot of it, like I said, was just fear-based. And once I stuck it out, I stopped feeling pain and I just started to feel really good. And it's happening at a time where I'm also tapering off my antidepressants. So it's helping with my mental health a lot, my mental clarity. And I'm just feeling like I'm really taking care of myself. Running just feels really good in my body right now. So I thought I would challenge myself to a half marathon. I've never run one. I don't think I've ever run more than 10 kilometers. Maybe I have, I don't know, but I've never done a race, so I'm doing a half marathon in September, and I am nervous. But I went for a run today, and I was running and I was listening to Taylor Swift, and it just started torrential downpouring. And honestly, I had such a great time. I'm really hoping I didn't permanently damage my AirPods, or my iPhone for that matter. But anyways, I really just loved it. It was so fun. It felt very freeing. I just felt really easy and carefree. and I didn't hurt at all. My knee kind of bugged me when I came home, which sucked. But yeah, I'm really enjoying running and getting back into that. And I don't talk a lot about my behind the scenes because a lot of who I am and what I do is this stuff. It's knitting, it's sewing, it's making things. But exercise and fitness and mental health have always been a really big part of my life, and it's not something I talk about too much online because I'm not an exercise account, but I have really loved getting back into running, and if you guys ever want to talk about that more, let me know, because I think that it can be so challenging, and I think a lot of what I can learn. So if you ever want to talk about running, let me know. We could talk about it on here because I really think that so much of running is mental. Obviously, it's a physical challenge, but I think that we can achieve so much more than we realize, and half of the battle with running is mental, if not more. That's something that I have really come to realize, is that it is this like long mental game. Another reason why I haven't been knitting as much is that I've gotten back into reading. So when I was knitting aggressively, I wasn't really reading as much. And I've really enjoyed reading, but I really want to try to do both again because I don't want to read and then not be knitting, and I don't want to stop knitting because I'm reading. But at the same time, if you're into a really good book, you can't really be doing complicated knitting. So maybe I get more into audiobooks again. I do love an audiobook, but I do also just love being absorbed into the text of a book. So I think it might be something I'll have to balance. But I have been reading a ton of romance fantasy novels. I really enjoy that. I really love a story. That's just something that I always, I majored in English literature. I love a story. I've read a lot of classic literature, and I feel inspired by fantasy books. I feel inspired by the world building and the characters and the imagination and the fantasy and all of that stuff. The romance, the happy ending sometimes, all of the stuff. I used to feel bad for enjoying fantasy novels or romance novels. I used to feel kind of guilty, like I wasn't expanding my mind or challenging myself or whatever, but I just really don't like reading nonfiction. I just don't like it, and reading is something that brings me joy. So why would I read it if it's not something that I enjoy? And at the same time, I do learn in a ton of different other ways. I learn all the time on YouTube. I read articles. I read the news. I consume a ton of podcasts as well, and I think that that's something that I've been really learning, is to just do the things that I like to do, not the things that I feel like I should do. If I'm saying to myself, I need to go for a run, or I need to, maybe I need to go for a run is a bit different now because I do need to train for my marathon or my half marathon. But if I say I need to read a nonfiction book, what is the need? Where does that come from? That doesn't come from me because I certainly don't need to read a nonfiction book. I would prefer to read a fantasy book. So I've been thinking a lot about that, as you might be able to tell. And another thing I've been thinking a lot about are these fantasy books, which just live in my brain after I'm done with them. So a few that I've been reading are Fourth Wing. That one I loved. I read it twice actually because I had a bit of a book hangover from it. I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I had to read it again. And I'm really happy that I did because I picked up on a lot. And I just can't believe I started a novel that's gonna have a total of 5 or 6 books. I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna be reading this for years. But that's okay, because it was really fun and I really liked it. And then I've been reading Throne of Glass, which is one of the Sarah J. Maas series. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, I think last year, and then now I'm reading A Throne of Glass. And I'm really liking it as well. I'm kind of powering through it. And then a few other books I've read are Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I haven't finished it yet because there's a part in it that I found devastating. It's beautifully written, but it was honestly so devastating that I had to put it down just because I emotionally couldn't deal with it. It was when I had lost all my footage from YouTube as well, and I was just like, no, I need a break. And I went into a fantasy book and I stayed there. So I, yeah, I really have been digging they're not even necessarily easier reads, but just the escape into a different world, that, you know, that storytelling, that adventure. Another writer who I really like is Carissa Broadbent. So she does a lot of fantasy books as well, fantasy romance books. And one thing that I really like about her is her dialogue. I find sometimes fantasy writers, the dialogue can be a bit cringe, especially if there's like a sexy scene. And I get a little like embarrassed, you know, like not embarrassed to be reading it, but I'm just like, ugh, this is a little cringe. But I find hers to be really something I can handle and love. Not just the romance part, but all of it. I just find the dialogue to be very believable, and or at least as believable as it can be for, you know, a romance fantasy novel. And I will say my one gripe, or I have several gripes, but one of my biggest gripes with books, fantasy books in particular, is that they always make the female main character like 18, 19, 20 years old, maybe 22 at the oldest. And then they have like some 100, 300, 500-year-old like immortal, like a fairy or a vampire or something. And it's like, come on. Like I can suspend my disbelief for a lot of things, but it's just that I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, can't they be the same age at least? Why does there have to be that insane age gap? So if you like fantasy novels, please tell me some that don't have that crazy age gap, because I don't like it. That's the thing that makes it really unbelievable for me. And that is the thing I get stuck on, is the age. I'm always like, oh, but like, okay, she's 19 and he's like 300. And it always starts with them being like, you're a child, because like they are a child. Like, come on, if John Mayer at 32, we are saying that like, absolutely not, he should not have dated 19-year-old Taylor Swift, which I agree, he should not have, then this 300-year-old immortal needs to back off. Even if he's sexy and has like beautiful hair. Like, no, absolutely not. Do I read them anyways? Yes. Yes, I do. So that is my current gripe. If you have any suggestions on books that fall into these categories but do not have that age gap, let me know. That was why I liked Fourth Wing. They're the same age, or roughly the same age, which is more believable. They went to school together, so like that's fine for me. Also, if you write fantasy novels, please make them older, or at least the same age. Like, 32 is not that old for our books. So I think I'm about where I need to split off into the raglan sleeves, and I don't have the instructions on me. So I'm gonna say goodbye here. But like I said, if you have any suggestions for how you wanna do these knit and chats going forward, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear. What would you like to craft? What would you like to talk about? Please let me know. Should I do these live? I don't know. Would anyone come? Maybe that could be something we do. I'm curious about all that good stuff, so hit me up in the comments. If you want to watch more from me, you can click right here. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do that right here. Thank you again, and I really do appreciate all the feedback you guys have been giving me. It has meant so much and has been so helpful. I'll see you next time. Bye.